The most important and influential decisions that I've made in my life have been ones that have literally crippled me with fear. I'd rather try something and be embarrassed by my failure than to never try something and therefore leave my potential unknown. If you try something with the sole purpose of learning, whether you succeed or whether you fail is irrelevant because either will provide you with the opportunity to learn. This is a big one for me because I am notorious for overthinking and over-collecting and over-researching before making any decision. Hey everyone, my name is Eric. Welcome to the channel. If you've not been here before, today we're going to talk about 5 different things to help you stop overthinking. So the first up on the list is to follow your curiosities. So first off, the kind of overthinking that I'm going to be talking about in this video revolves around the inability to make a decision. Typically, for me personally, this is because I'm trying to collect too much information, I'm discussing and thinking about too many options, and therefore never take any action. To combat this, curiosity is one of the best ways to drive action. One good question to ask yourself is, what are you curious about that can only be discovered through physically doing something? An example in my personal life was that I felt like I had decent ideas for YouTube videos. I knew how to use a camera, and I just needed to combine the two things and discover if I could actually make something out of these videos and if people would watch them, if people would actually enjoy them, and people would get value from them. I have literally no way to know the answer to this question without physically picking up a camera, writing scripts, filming videos, and posting them online. In this scenario, my curiosity outweighed my fear of failure or embarrassment by putting myself out there online. Wow, I almost just passed out. And therefore, I stopped overthinking it and decided to give it a try. The second thing on the list is to prove yourself wrong. Now, what does this even mean? The question I like to ask myself for this one is, do the pros outweigh the cons of this decision? And the thing about this question is that the upside of the pros are immeasurable and infinite. But on the other hand, the downside or the cons of this decision are finite. And luckily, the downside of a decision is usually pretty easy to estimate. Again, for this YouTube example, I might get laughed at, my videos might get 0 views, nobody might subscribe to my YouTube channel, somebody might say something hurtful or rude in the comments, or I might say something wrong or incorrectly in my video and therefore make a fool out of myself. Realistically, these are kind of the only things that I can think of that are the downsides of putting yourself out there on the internet. But the upside of this decision is completely unknown until action is taken. What if I get tens of thousands of views on my video? Or what if I get hundreds of thousands of views on these videos? What if something I posted a video about was exactly the advice that someone was looking for? What if I make connections and friends through these videos that end up lasting a lifetime? If your doubts tell you that you can't do something, prove those doubts wrong. And this leads to the third thing on the list, which is you need to learn to love failure. The question here is, would I learn something beneficial from this experiment even if I do fail? And the answer to this question is, of course, yes, because failure equals growth. And unfortunately, as humans, we're just wired to be scared of failure. Failure also equals embarrassment, and embarrassment, of course, is not a very good feeling. But one thing to keep in mind is that embarrassment is temporary. If you're willing to endure embarrassment for 1 to 3 months when you're starting a new thing, you're able to get past that first steep step that 99% of people are not willing to take. This reminds me of a quote from Jerry Rice that says, "Today I will do what others won't, so tomorrow I can do what others can't." I'd rather try something and be embarrassed by my failure than to never try something and therefore leave my potential unknown. Just as a quick side note, if you're afraid of putting yourself out there online in whatever format that might be, one piece of advice that I would have is to either create an anonymous brand that isn't affiliated with your name or your face, or you can do what I did, which was to create a personal brand and just not share it with anybody, whether that be your friends, your family, people around you. This way, you're able to avoid that initial awkwardness of people finding out about what you're doing online. Another good way to do this is to start a new account, whether that be on YouTube, Instagram, whatever it might be, and start posting on that. And even if it's in your name, people probably won't find it right away. If you continue sharing your work and creating on whatever platform you choose, by the time your friends or family do find out about this new account, you will have overcome that fear just by simply taking action and finding your voice behind what you're creating. Therefore, you will likely no longer be embarrassed about it, but rather be proud of what you've built. There's a pretty famous quote that says something like, "Easy decisions now, hard life later. Hard decisions now, easy life later." That honestly might be way off, but I'll post a quote right here. But the takeaway from this quote could not be more true in my own life. The most important and influential decisions that I've made in my life have been ones that have literally crippled me with fear. These things include dropping out of college, leaving my 9 to 5 job, moving into a van, and then eventually moving across the country, and then finally just putting myself out there on the internet. Without these big decisions, I'd be a heck of a lot more comfortable with my life, but I'd also be a heck of a lot more complacent. Even if these big decisions didn't exactly pan out how I had hoped that they would in the moment, I've now come to the realization that the most important part of these decisions was breaking out of that previous place that I was at the time. For example, when I quit my full-time job, I wanted to be making just as much money as I was in my job a year later, and that was going to be done through freelancing and real estate. And the reality is that did not happen. But now that it's been almost 2 years since I quit this job, I am doing things that I didn't even have in my horizon at that time, and I'm pursuing bigger goals than I could have ever imagined. Just because the life that I'm living right now is not what I imagined it would be, does not mean that I regret making those big decisions. Still to this day, that's one of the best decisions that I've made. The big takeaway here is that your second step only shows up after you're willing to take that first step. The fourth thing on the list is that consistency combats overthinking / perfectionism. One thing that helps tremendously in this area is to set a daily, weekly, or bi-weekly goal and stick to it. So for me, this has been creating and sharing a weekly video on YouTube, and it's super helpful because I legitimately do not have enough time in the day or in the week to sit there and perfect each video up to my unrealistic standard. A mantra that I've adopted in this season of life is done is better than perfect. In this situation, my desire to keep up with posting consistent weekly videos is stronger than my desire to perfect each video and release those inconsistently. In this way, my perfectionism is being satisfied by posting weekly videos rather than perfecting each one. If you personally can't seem to start or finish a project, set a deadline and make it public. This way, your desire to fulfill the promise that you made to people encourages you to actually do the thing. And the final point I want to make is number 5, and that is that more information does not always equal a more informed decision. This is a big one for me because I am notorious for overthinking and overcollecting and over-researching before making any decision. At a certain point, the more you think about it and the more you do research actually pushes you further away from that thing. There's going to always be cons to whatever decision that you make because we live in an imperfect world. The more you learn about these cons and the more you research them and realize how terrible they are, the less action you're going to take. Growth, life lessons, and education are all hidden in the cons of these big decisions. The more that you avoid these cons, the more you become complacent in a dissatisfied life. When you expect to fail or are no longer afraid of failure, knowing that it will lead to growth, entering new spaces and trying new things is much less terrifying. If you try something with the sole purpose of learning, whether you succeed or whether you fail is irrelevant because either will provide you with the opportunity to learn. And one thing I've learned on my journey is the thing that you're avoiding is probably the thing that you should be focusing on first. And this could mean avoiding something on your to-do list, or it could even mean avoiding something like quitting your job, because that's what it was for me. I knew I needed to do it, but I was afraid. I was scared of what was on the other side, but it ended up working out. I'm still alive. I'm still well. Life is good. Number 1 on the list was to follow your curiosities because curiosity sparks action. Number 2 on the list was to prove yourself wrong because the upside to a big decision is infinite and the downside is finite and typically not as bad as you make it out to be. If your doubts tell you that you can't do it, prove these doubts wrong. Number 3 is that you need to learn to love failure because failure equals growth. And whether you fail or whether you succeed in this new thing, it's irrelevant because either will provide you with the opportunity to learn. Number 4 is that consistency combats overthinking and perfectionism. Imperfect, consistent action will get you further than perfect, inconsistent action. And then finally, number 5 was that more information does not always equal a more informed decision. The more you research things that might go wrong, the less time you're learning from actually doing the thing. If you want to start creating content but don't know what your niche is, you don't know who you can help with your content, and you don't know how to take action with confidence, I have a free course down below in the description called the Content Clarity Crash Course, and the whole goal is to help you find clarity about who you can help and how you can do so. It's completely free. I'll have a link down in the description. Make sure to hit like if you enjoyed this video or got value from it. Make sure to subscribe to follow along for more. My name is Eric. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.